Didn't even go, doesn't it? Sure. Snow falls.
How is everybody this evening?
Wonderful.
I'd like to call to order the City of Portage Common Council regular meeting March 6, 2018. Councilperson O'Prisco, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Arroyo, would you open us up in a word of prayer?
Whether we bow our heads. Our most precious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day and all the kind blessings that you continue to give us, Lord. Undeservedly so a lot of times, but nonetheless, you do so. Lord, we thank you for that. Lord, we thank you that you're not a God of only one chance, but of many chances. And Lord, we're thankful for that. Lord, we're thankful for our city. Lord, we thank you for our leaders. We're thankful for the people that spend their time and their energy in directing and focusing on what is good for our city, and for the constituents and for the communities. Lord, we ask that you continue to bless them, uphold them. Lord, focus them. Lord, let them do what's best for the majority of the people here. Unfortunately, we can't please everyone. And Lord, we try to do the very best that we can. So Lord, as we bring this to an end here right now, Lord, before you, we're pleading with you once again to uphold our public officials. Bless them, bless their families, and bless the work that they do on a daily basis. And Lord, we ask that you bless them and all of God's people in this room said.
Amen. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Modesto.
Here.
Councilperson Clem.
Here.
Councilperson Williams.
Here.
Councilperson Cannon.
Here.
Councilperson Zilli. Here. Councilperson Lynch.
Here.
Councilperson O'Prisco.
Here. The minutes from the previous meeting, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilperson Modesto.
Yes.
Councilperson Clem.
Yes.
Councilperson Williams.
Yes.
Councilperson Cannon.
Yes.
Councilperson Zilli.
Yes.
Councilperson Lynch.
Yes.
Councilperson O'Prisco.
Yes.
Thank you. I want to move some things around. Mr. Maleta, let's go ahead and move right to the abatements. The introduction of the resolution for man, you said it and I had it, and now I've got to pronounce what it says here. Voestalpine, and you can tell us exactly what it is, but go ahead, Council President O'Prisco, can we read that into the...
We'll go ahead and take that for me, Colin.
Sure. I'm reading the resolution.
No, we're reading.
Which one am I reading?
We're reading the.
Oh, got it. And the wrong one. The SBA one, right?
Resolution.
Yes.
Okay. What do I read? I haven't even read one of these yet.
You want me to do it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what I read.
Voestalpine, okay, statement of benefits for personal property tax abatement. The name of the taxpayer is Voestalpine, is that how you pronounce it? Voestalpine, okay, sorry about that. Bowler Welding USA Technologies LLC, the address is 1601 Gilligan Lane, Sugar Land, Texas. 77478, and the name of the contact person is Eddie Einoff. And I have your phone number out, and this is for location and description of the property is the city of Portage, 6797 Fronius Drive, Portage, Indiana. The taxing district is 64016. The starting date of the project is going to be 5/1/2018. The ending date is going to be 3/9/39.
It says 39. It should probably, I'm assuming, March
It
9th.
has a typo, 39/2/18. I assume it's probably going to be sometime in December, maybe, or January.
That's correct.
Okay. And the estimated value of proposed projects is 12.85 million. Current number of employees is 0, and the anticipated number of additional employees It's gonna be 50 in 4 years, and I remember reading in your story that you were telling us about your business, that you were gonna employ 25 at first and then another 25 within 4 years, so. And the salaries are estimated at $3,064,000. Equipment cost is gonna be $670,000, or $670,000, dollars. Make a motion to adopt.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to adopt, and we have a second. Mr. Maleta.
Yeah, so I did send all members of the council a little summary of a little bit about the Volstepine, the company, what they do, what their intentions are. So they're looking at, what they're asking for is a 5-year abatement on machinery and equipment, personal property tax abatement for $12.85 million. They're anxious to get in. As Councilperson Modesto read, the plan is to have 25 employees up and running by the end of this year, up to 50 employees within 3 years. It's a great company. They produce welding consumables such as rods, etc., for the welding industry. Very well-known company, as you see by that summary I gave you. From Austria is their parent company. So we're really excited. They've been looking various locations for some period of time. We're really excited that they chose Portage, just another one of an international company that has looked at Portage and found a place to call home. So we really appreciate your consideration this evening. Mr. Pinehoff is here this evening if you'd like to ask him any questions. He flew in this afternoon. So with that, again, any questions you might have, and we appreciate
I do, Andy.
that help. Yes.
It's more of a concern than a question. With our residents, we prefer you to hire Portage residents and our veterans. They need employment with close near quarters, and that's really my opinion on all this. Look into hiring our veterans and our local citizens of Portage.
This is definitely something we're planning to do. We will hire local people. That's what it's all about. We want to come here. We want to be part of it. So that's very important for us. And whenever also definitely we will hire local people. There's a lot of people who need to get trained in the work we do, and that's definitely available.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to just make a comment. I just want to tell you thank you for coming here to our fine city of Portage and for working with Andy. He's an excellent person, and thank you for coming to Portage.
Yes, thank you.
We look forward to your business opening.
Thank you. Thank you. We are looking forward to that also from our side.
There were a lot of people that were part of recruiting Fronius here. I know Mayor Velasquez and the council members that were on here at the time. I know that Chris, you were with Portage EDC at the time.
Yeah.
Chris and Susan Kelly Johnson spent a lot of time meeting with Fronius, and it's great to see a little bit of more fruit from that situation. And I think it's important to recognize all those people who were helpful in recruiting them to bring them in. Absolutely. And so I wanted to do that. And then Amy, you've worked with them as well from start to finish. Amy's the one who does all the background work. Andy gets all the glory. Amy, good job. And we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Clem.
Yes.
Councilperson Williams.
Yes.
Councilperson Gannon.
Yes.
Councilperson Zilli.
Yes.
Councilperson Lynch.
Yes.
Councilperson Aprisco.
Yes.
Councilperson Modesto.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have to do the resolution too? That's in the Dropbox?
We did the personal property abatement, and then do we have to do the resolution as well, Mr. Sikowski?
I think so. I think that's perfect.
Do we have a motion on the resolution?
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the resolution. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Williams.
Yes.
Councilperson Cannon.
Yes.
Councilperson Zilli.
Yes.
Councilperson Lynch.
Yes.
Councilperson Aprisco. Councilperson Modesto.
Yes.
Councilperson Clem.
Yes.
Just talked all nice about you, so I thought I'd make you work a little bit harder.
That's all right.
We have the real property abatements for Marina Shores, Lot 21 and 28. Do we have somebody to read those? Do we have somebody to read those in?
I'll take care of it. Section 1. Marina Shores at Dune Harbor LLC, address 730101 South Hazelton Lane, Tempe, Arizona. The person contact is Dave Resnahan. Telephone number is 602-370-1900.
3430, his email address for the record is there. Section 2, location and description of proposed project, City of Portage Common Council. The location of property, lot 21, Marina Shores at Twin Harbor, LLC, Porter. Description of real property improvements, redevelopment, and rehabilitation, construction of a single-family home as a model. The DLGF taxing district, 016 is it? The estimated start date, 1/22 of 18. Estimated completion date, 7/31 of 18. Estimate of employees and salaries, current number, not applicable. Salaries, not applicable. Number retained, not applicable. Salaries, not applicable. Number of additional, same thing, not applicable. Salaries, not. Estimated total cost for real estate improvements, current values is $60,000 plus the estimated values of the proposed project at $226,000. Assessed value, $226,000. The net estimated values upon completion of project, $286,000. Assessed value, $286,000. This was signed by David, I'm sure, it's hard to read. Owner of Marina Shores, Twin Harbor LLC, date 1/22/18. Make a motion to deny.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to deny. Mr. Maleta.
Yeah, so, at the last meeting, these items were on that agenda. Mr. Bresnahan was not here. We did ask him to come here this evening to explain in detail what's going on at Marina Shores, as well as explain these abatement requests. So I'd like to ask, with your permission, have Mr. Bresnahan come up and answer any questions you have as a result concerns this.
Thank you for having me. I was never notified to attend these when the tax abatement was passed on November 2nd of 2016. I had recently sent an email to the members. The tax abatement that was approved by this council was for 18 months, and it was for all new construction. This particular lot is going to be a model. We're building that. Lot 28, we're also going to build a spec model. And soon we will contract with Steiner Homes to build an additional model. That's what these homes are going to be built for, is to help prime the pump to get more construction started at the marina. Since November 2nd, we have sold either 6 homes or lots, and that construction will be starting here in the next 60 days. Part of that is on the single family side, part of that is on the multifamily side. So we're encouraged by the construction activity, but we obviously feel that more construction activity will spur even additional activity, hopefully build Marina Shores out to completion.
Could I just interject to make a statement to you? The only issue that I have, and I know Colin's talked to me at length about this, the only issue, speaking for myself, and I'm sure Colin will say something, is that this home is not being built by the homeowner, it's being built by you guys as a model. And when we did give you your initial tax abatements, it was for the owners. We didn't look at your company, Dave, doing these and then selling them. So if a homeowner comes through, I don't have an issue with giving abatements, but for the owners of the property to do that, I have an issue.
I guess my concern is, what if you don't sell the model homes?
They won't sell models, what they'll do, I'm sorry.
Hang on, I'm gonna, okay. You had a question, do you have an answer to that question? Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, if you're building a model home, I mean, are you going to sell it in the future? What's the purpose of building it?
We, as developers, it's easier to sell rooftops than it is to sell dirt. And we're not builders. We're real estate investors, so we did not develop Marina Shores. We came in the last 4 years. If a home is built, we can sell it. So the idea was to make an investment and build 2 model homes, and then build a spec model and keep them open as models. We did have models that Steiner built, but we sold him those lots. He built 2 models, and then he sold them. So now people that want to see a home in Marina Shores, there's no home to see. You can just see a lot. So we have decided to take control of that and hire Steiner to build one. That's gonna be on lot 22. That'll be presented next month. Lot 21 is part of what Mr. Briscoe just read. That's gonna be built by Philippi Homes, and it intended to be as a model. Eventually, of course, we will sell it. I don't know when that will be. We still have 60 lots just on the single family side to sell. So every new construction, as was instructed when this tax abatement was approved, November 2nd, 2016, I was told that the process was to submit a form. I followed that instruction. So I've done that. So I don't know where the disconnect is. So and that's why I'm here today.
Mr. President, I'm going to get through everybody here. Who had the next question? Councilperson Modesto.
The abatement was for 18 months, correct? On a single family home?
On any new construction.
Okay, and so that abatement's expired, isn't it, if it was in?
It will be April 30th.
Okay, are you gonna come back for an abatement, a renewal for that abatement, or are you just gonna do it individually for a house when it's sold? Are you gonna do it as a group?
He would have to have a renewal of the entire project at that time. So what he's asking for is what we agreed to a while back, with the exception, I think Mark's, Councilperson Prisco's concern is that these are model homes. So that's what he's raising as his concern, and why he made the motion, I believe, to deny. Not because it's a new home, it's because it's a model home. Now, so I believe that's the answer to your question. I don't think he'd be able to answer what you were asking. Go ahead.
This is my opinion, is what we voted on in my support of why I passed that or voted for that, was for a better market. So you have a better market value.
Correct.
If you haven't done your market out there and showing your homes that you're building existing for the last year with models, or having a, what do you want to call it, you have all the other real estate agents come into a home that's established and built in a model. I'm sorry?
Open house.
Open house, there you go, thank you. And have you generated anything out of those?
We have. Philippi Builders builds on the multifamily side. There's a 3-plex, and he had a model home as part of that 3-unit building. That has sold. And he started a second building, another 3 units. And one of those is pre-sold. So people visiting Marina Shores who want to see a home, not just a lot, we're able to do that.
Once again, did you generate anything out of those open houses? And did you market their like Marina Shores? Or did someone come to you and say, I want this, but I want to build over here because I already own this land? Or was it for the development that you're already in, and only that?
Well,
see, because it was a marketing tool for you to use, and now you're wanting us to do a home for you when you don't even have a purchaser. That's my issue with this whole thing.
Well,
Pat, can I answer some of that? Do you mind?
Absolutely.
How many homes have you sold, Dave? Because I think that's what he's asking. Under the abatement that we gave, you sold since November 2nd. He sold 6 homes. This is the season where Altoff, other companies throughout the city are building and getting spec homes up, because this is when people want to see what's going on.
Yeah, I understand.
So the other portion of a spec home that I think is important for us to understand, they're taking their own money and putting it up in Portage to build these houses. And I just think that's something that's important to understand.
Yeah, I understand how
where they instead of a pre-sold, they're taking their own money and putting it up to get more pre-solds. So
Can I reiterate one more real fast?
sure, because I'm going to call the roll here in a second.
Okay, you're gonna have 3 models then, so you want the tax abatement right now, just on those 3 models, a 5-year tax abatement. You're gonna be, you got 22 coming, 21 and 28 are today. And it's your business, basically, you're gonna use those as your business to generate more business.
correct.
But I'm also, I'm sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, hang on, Pat. I got another hand up. I'm coming back to you.
Just one point real quick.
Sure, you can make a point.
There's another
Or is it a
thing
question?
the point is you're establishing these prices before you even have a buyer. So the point is that we're giving it to the homeowner, not the business. So where's this gonna go to? It's probably gonna get, most likely you're gonna get that money, it's not the homeowner.
Well, that's not our intent. When we applied for this and got approved November of 2016, it was not our intent, to make an additional $1 million investment to build more homes, on a spec. It was our intent to try to spur activity, and after 6, 7, 8 months, it was still slow. So we decided, as an ownership group, make the additional investment to build models, because we have found since Philippi was building their model, it did encourage buyers because they can actually walk in a home and they can envision living there, and then they have sold all 3 of the first building, the 3-plex that they built and completed. Then they started a second one and they pre-sold one of those. So we see that model works. So that's why we're hiring Steiner and Philippi to build us 2 additional models that will keep as models, that eventually as it gets built out, we will eventually sell the house.
Oh, sure, yeah.
If it's after 5 years, then the new homeowner is not going to benefit from the abatement. It's not our intent to try to avoid tax.
Exactly.
It's all of our intent to encourage activity.
Now, how much marketing have you done outside of your models or your open houses?
We do marketing in many ways. Billboards, we're on the train, we advertise in magazines, we do email blasts. We also rely on our builder to do some of that. So it's addressed through not just us, through the builders, Philippi and Steiner.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
The 3 villas that were built and sold by townhomes that got changed, yes. Those are occupied?
One is closed, the other they're in escrow, they're scheduled to close in the next few weeks. And then the one that's pre-sold is still under construction.
Okay, I thought the pre-sold, you said, pertained to the new townhome.
Yes.
So aren't there 3 units in that first?
There's 3 units in each building. So the first building that is completed, one of which was a model, is sold.
Okay.
And then the other 2 units are also sold. Now when I say sold, it's either in escrow or it's closed.
Okay.
Then the one that's pre-sold is still under construction. It's not completed yet.
Right.
But they have pre-sold it. So we're confident that if we build it, but we have to build it on spec. The problem is that builders, because it's still suffering some pain from 2008, 2009, they won't build on spec. We have offered them incentives. We'll give you the land, pay us for the land when you sell the house, but no builder will sign up for that. So we've agreed.
That's a $60,000 bonus and they're not gonna do it.
Correct. Yeah, they won't, and that's what I've been trying to work towards, trying to get them to do that. So we've made the additional investment to build it, and they will come.
Yeah.
I got a question. How much longer is that special assessment?
10 years? No. Yeah.
Was it 18 years, Greg? I don't know, it's pretty long.
I think, do you know, Dave? You're probably counting it down.
Like knowledgeable of that, so I like to kind of refrain, but that's handled from someone else in our organization.
All right. We have a motion and
I know it's not gonna expire in 5 years.
No.
I have one more question. So I guess my other concern is the abatement expires in April. When are these gonna be ready to go to show? It's August?
It's the
July?
application, so once you get the C of O, that's when the 5 years starts, as I was told.
No, I'm not talking about yours. I'm talking about the idea that you'll have these to show homeowners to buy a house in Marina Shores.
Mm-hmm.
But that's gonna be long after this abatement's expired. So we're gonna this is contingent on us re-upping the abatement agreement in April, right? Because if we don't, then there aren't abatements to offer.
Mr. Sikowski, can you answer that question?
You're gonna come back and ask us for an extension on that.
Hang on. Councilperson Prisco, Modesto, sorry. Wow, that was way off. I asked Mr. Sikowski to answer the question.
So as I understand it, the property owner is eligible to apply for abatements for an 18-month period beginning
November of 2016. So an abatement granted today, even though the house is not complete until he still gets the abatement for this. Once the April date hits, then he can't apply for any more abatements unless the.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not talking, I know this abatement, it's in front of us now. I'm talking about the idea that these are gonna be used to spur development for other homes. That abatement expires in April, they're not gonna qualify if they come in September when this house is up and built to show.
Correct, and I've been asked to come here to kind of give a report, and it's impossible to surmise that the 6 homes or lots that we have sold were sold because of the abatement. There's a number of factors, that are involved in a decision of building a home. And having an abatement, obviously helps. But I think the biggest issue really is the number of vacant lots. People that come in, they already know that this was developed 14, 15 years ago, and they've seen the vacant lots for over a decade. They're concerned whether or not this development is gonna survive. We own it, there's no debt on it, we can tell people that till we're blue in the face, but they won't really believe it until more rooftops go in. And as more rooftops go in, they gain confidence and they're willing to make that $300,000 investment.
All right, we have sorry, Dave, we have a motion and a second to deny. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Cannon.
No.
Councilperson Zilli.
Yes.
Councilperson Lynch.
Yes.
Councilperson Aprisco.
Yes.
Councilperson Modesto.
No.
Councilperson Clem.
Yes.
Councilperson Williams.
Yes.
And just for was that just on lot 21 or that lot 21 and 28?
Just two of them, we gotta,
Just
can we,
on lot 21,
Okay.
that's all I read.
Okay.
Lot 28. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, well, I might as well read this. Statement of benefits to real estate improvements. Section 1, Marina Shores at Dune Harbor LLC, address 7301 South Sun Lane, Tempe, Arizona. Dave's the contact person, telephone numbers given, his emails given, location and description of proposed project, City of Portage County Council, location of property, lot 28, Marina Shores at Dune Harbor, County Border, description of property, improvements, redevelopment, rehabilitation, single home as a model, DLGF 016, estimated start date 1/22/18, a couple months ago. Are these homes being built?
Yes, now, I didn't hear you, but does that say
Are these
spec?
homes being built as we currently speak? If you look at the date, they're like a couple months old, almost 6 weeks old.
Well, it's when
Is your date of start date? I'm asking you, have these homes been started?
Yes. And does it say spec
Estimated
model? Because this is
completion
not a
date.
model, this is actually a spec model, it is.
It's a model.
It says construction of a single family home as a model.
And there's 3 people talking, hang on. Ms. Councilperson Aprisco.
7/31/18, estimate of employee salaries and results of proposed project group number, non-applicable, salaries non-applicable, number retained non-applicable, salaries non-applicable, number additional non-applicable, salaries non-applicable, current values under real estate improvements, a cost of $60,000 plus estimated values of proposed project under real estate improvements, $230,000 with an assessed value of $230,000. Net estimated values upon completion of project for real estate improvements, cost $290,000, assessed value $290,000. Signed by Dave. Make motion to deny.
We have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Zilli.
Yes.
Councilperson Lynch.
Yes.
Councilperson Aprisco.
Yes.
Councilperson Modesto.
No.
Councilperson Clem.
yes.
Councilperson Williams.
Yes.
Councilperson Cannon.
No.
That's it. We have work to do.
Would like to, yeah, I'd like to ask a question.
Well, you can't.
I can't.
No, sorry.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
So there's 2 resolutions in there on these, in our Dropbox on these 2 lots as well. I'm assuming they would have to be
voted on or?
I think it might have been denial of the resolution.
Okay, all right, just wanted to make sure.
All right, communication, correspondence, and different things from the mayor. There's a couple things that I wanted to talk about that are really important. The first thing is we lost Officer Jeff Podgorski today. He passed away. He's been battling cancer for some time, and he passed away relatively unexpected today, this afternoon. So all of our officers are somewhat glum today, and so am I, and they were a staple in this community. They are a staple in this community, and I'd like to take a moment to just have a moment of silence to think about the Podgorski family and keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you. Keep our officers. This is always tough on them anytime they lose a brother, especially somebody who is active duty at the time. It always makes it very difficult on them. There's some good news. I got to go to the state champ wrestling meet this month, and we watched Jacob Moran and Christian Rumpf both win the state titles. One of the things that I posted it, one of the things that always just is inspiring to me is every time I watch our young men and women active in sports throughout the state. At the end of the state championships, if you don't watch it, when they win, they get an interview, a TV interview. It's their 15 minutes of fame. It's really a lot of fun to watch. And both of these kids, you hear these are the wrestlers, so you hear a lot of cocky stuff come out of the kids. And when you get to the Portage kids, you just get humility, respect, kindness, gentleness, and but man, when they wrestle, they're the opposite. they're mean and they're tough. And I just once again was highly impressed. I see school board member Nelson, school board member Maletta, and school board member Oprisco here. You guys just have so much to be proud about over there. These kids, they're just respectful. It's always, anytime I get to go to a basketball game, any event, the kids are just so kind and thoughtful and always catching my kids and taking them with them and doing stuff with them. And I just can't tell you how proud I am of them. And, I think we wanted to go win state, and we had a couple kids get knocked out. We had, I can't think of Pointer's first name. What's Colin Pointer? It was devastating. His first match, about 30 seconds into the match, he got kneed in the head and had a concussion. I mean, just knocked him out. And had he made it, and had Henderlong lost by a point, had Henderlong and him made it, I think we probably would have been state champs. Really, really neat to watch them. Really proud of those boys, and I can't imagine a senior losing it like that. That was just a really tough break. The other thing I wanted to mention were our stormwater crews and our street department crews. We, one of the things that we had, we had this rain come down, and when we have the frost in the ground for the residents, it's really hard for us to keep up with that. And I believe we had about 5.5 inches of rain, and it came so fast it deluged us. And I'll tell you, the work of the field crews getting those ditches cleared the last 5-6 years. I mean, they've just been on it, cleaning them. I don't know if you guys probably notice now because you're more active in it, but if you watch our retention ponds, there's little ditches in the middle of those retention ponds that we've dug to make sure that all that water's moving properly. And we fared really well in this massive storm. We're still doing a little bit of cleanup on the waterway, and I think that might have been finished up today because I got some final emails from Steve. Are we done today? One more day. So we had some massive blockage in the waterway, but other than that, we did really, really well. And give all of our street department and stormwater crews a good round of applause. The other issue that I wanted to take some time to talk about, and there's, of course, most of you have read about it, and I'm not going to be critical or ugly or anything like that, but I do think it's really hard in a newspaper article to be able to attain what's happening with the city regarding the mayor's office and the city council regarding the utilities. And I wanted to take some time to go over that with you and to talk about it and to talk about what we've done from our side to try to make sure that we did everything possible that we believed possible to make this a amicable situation. As you know of, about a year ago, the city council voted to take over the utility service board. They used a section of the code 8-1.5 to do that under stormwater and things like that. I signed the ordinance because at the time we believed that was the way it was supposed to be. We were already governed under 8-1.5. That had happened in 2009, so we believed that there was no reason for us to believe anything differently. What we did during the course of time, a mayor goes to different events and sees other mayors. And I was discussing with them what I was dealing with. Not being able to run the utility is somewhat difficult as a mayor. I think when people elect a mayor, they expect their mayor to be dealing with utilities too. And so we, talking to them, I kept having people say, how can that be legal? Is it legal? Is it right? Is it the right thing? And then we also went to IACT and talked to IACT about it, or AIM, the Indiana Association of Cities and Towns. Everybody kept coming back to us and saying that is not, the code that they used is not lawful. So we talked to, so then I talked to utility attorneys. 3 separate utility attorneys for 3 large firms. 2 of them could not write the opinion because they were part of these large firms that had already done bonds for us and things like that. But every time I talked to a different utility attorney, a utility expert attorney, who that's all they do, within 10 to 15 minutes, they would ask one question: do you have more than a sewer utility? And I would answer no, and they'd say, well then no, you can't use 8-1.5. So I asked for that opinion to be given to us, to be written and given to us. Before I received the opinion, one of the concerns that I had was our bonds and things like that, of course, because I didn't want to get an opinion that caused that kind of a problem. So in the process of that, we made sure that the bonds were okay. And then one of the concerns that we had were the new stormwater fees upcoming that had just been passed. And I was delivered a memo that talked about why we couldn't use 8-1.5. When I received that memo, I was at odds with the council. That happens every once in a while. Sometimes we're in good shape, sometimes we're not. I was at odds with the council. So I delivered that memo through a mutual respected source to the city council's attorney, Ken Elwood, because I thought doing it in public or doing it some way out front could cause everybody to get dug in and could create war. And that's not something that I wanted to happen. That's not something we needed at that time. Then on that was December 5th. December 8th, we had a meeting, me, Chris, and Andy. Normally on Fridays at 10 o'clock, we have a meeting and we discuss different things. Chris is the clerk treasurer, and we go over finances and things like that. Of course, this issue came up, and I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouth or anything like that. So we had a meeting about it. We called the attorney at 12:30 that afternoon, and we talked about it even further, all 3 of us. And then even on that day, I was asked some questions from the clerk treasurer, sent them to the attorney, Michael Griffiths, and got a response on the questions that he had. December 19th, Attorney Sapkowski left an email or voicemail for Ken Elwood. December 22nd, there was a meeting between me, Clerk Treasurer Stidham, Andy Miletta, Greg Sapkowski, Michael Griffiths. We had invited Mr. Elwood to attend, and he could not make it. On Friday, December 22nd, we got an email. There's an email from Greg Sapkowski regarding they were playing phone tag quite a bit. And I'm going to go over all that because I think it's important that everybody knows that there's a lot of communication that's taken place. December 22nd, December 26th, Greg Sapkowski leaves another message for Ken Elwood. December 27th, Ken Elwood leaves a message for Greg Sapkowski. December 28th, an email then went out to the council from Chris Stidham to the city council, along with Marco Prisco and Liz Modesto replying to those emails. Both of those emails that came from Councilperson O'Prisco and Councilperson Modesto, the tenor of those emails was that they were not pleased, and that it wasn't, is it accurate? It was, why is the mayor spending money? When's he going to learn that we're not doing this? And I will tell you that when somebody gives us a legal opinion, the very first thing that we do is I go to Greg Sapkowski, send it to my counsel, and ask him, is this accurate or not? In defense of the city, the first thing we need to ask is it accurate? Is this a bad opinion or is this a good opinion? December 29th, an email from Greg Sapkowski to Ken Elwood. January 5th, Greg Sapkowski and Ken Elwood tried reaching each other via phone. January 5th, an email from Greg Sapkowski to Ken Elwood because they were playing phone tag. They were playing phone tag so much. The end, we can provide you a copy of the entire email. At the end, he says, at any rate, this is Greg, at any rate, I still think the best course of action would be for you and I to discuss this issue. Finding out your opinion is crucial. Once we have talked, I am confident what action can be, what should be taken to protect the city's best interests. I'm available all day Monday if you want to talk then. January 5th, Ken responds, and he tells us that his initial conclusion is that the USB is appropriately created and there's a lot of other things that we can give you. For sake of time, I won't read them. January 8th through 10th, they continue to try reaching each other via phone to talk. January 9th, me and Mark finally talked. We weren't talking for a while there. Mark and I talked on that day for 2 minutes, 1 minute, 4 minutes, and 7 minutes. January 10th, Greg Sapkowski and Ken spoke on the phone. January 12th, James and Mark talked 7 minutes and 11 minutes. January 15th, James Snyder and Marco Prisco spoke on the phone for 1 minute and 2 minutes. January 18th, John Cannon, Liz Modesto, and Scott Williams met. At the end of that meeting, Scott was going to be the new chairman, or was the new chairman. We discussed this issue. The thing that kept ringing from everybody was, we're going to talk to Ken and we'll get back with you. We'll talk to Ken and we'll get back with you. We'll talk to Ken Elwood, our attorney, and we'll get back to you. January 21st, the Times article was published. Somebody sent the USB report, or the legal issue that we were trying to not publish publicly. I guess that went a long time without it making it public. But somebody sent them, the press, the article, and there was an article on it. On January 22nd, Mark and I talked for 2 minutes. On January 26th, we talked for 31 minutes. On January 30th, we talked for 3 minutes. On February 1st, we talked for 6 minutes. On February 3rd, we talked to 14 minutes. All of this was talking about the utility and trying to get this worked out. On February 5th, I sent an email to Mark. We have spoken a few times in the past few days regarding the USB opinion from Bingham, Greenham, and Dahl in the mayor's office. I have striven not to get dug in on this issue and have presented it in a way to keep the council from doing the same. We need to make sure everything is done properly and lawfully. Please consider the attorneys for the city and the USB, along with any legal counsel involved in this matter, having a discussion prior to the USB executive session where opinions could be developed that are inaccurate. Let them discuss the entire situation, and all opinions and related research as that is how good government works. Bingham, Greenham, and Dahl have reached out to your counsel at Clark and Quinn, and it is my understanding that they believe a call is well advised, but need to have permission from their client. Greg Sapkowski and Michael Griffiths are available at Ken Elwood's convenience to discuss the matter before Tuesday's executive session. February 6th, we had a meeting. It was between me, Steve Nelson, and Pat, and we discussed it again. I discussed it with Pat. February 6th, there was the executive session. February 7th, the council had the executive session. February 7th, James Snyder and Marco Prisco spoke for 1 minute and then 10 minutes. There was an email on February 13th, a week later, from Ken Elwood to Greg Sapkowski. Let me know when you and I can meet regarding the USB issues. On February 14th, James and Mark talked for 5 minutes. On February 20th, James and Mark talked for 10 minutes. On February 21st, Elwood and Ken met. On February 21st, James and Mark talked for 10 minutes. On February 22nd, we had a State Board of Accounts audit. On February 22nd, email from James Snyder to Marco Prisco and Chris Stidham, Andy Miletta, Ken Elwood, and Greg Sukowski. This was regarding the impervious surface fees, asking to get something where we had side-by-side comparisons because we were receiving so many calls regarding the impervious surface. February 22nd, we talked for, Mark and I talked for a minute apiece. February 22nd, I met with Liz Modesto after the RDC meeting, and we discussed this. And then on March 2nd, things kind of went south regarding, and that was because of the security at City Hall. One of the things that came across in that whole discussion with the security at City Hall was that this was somehow politically motivated by the mayor's office. I want to again explain that we have never contacted the press regarding these issues. It has always been the members of certain members of the council talking to the press.
It was myself.
What I want to make clear is that the concern of the mayor's office, more than anything, and the legal counsel is the USB's lack of concern about this issue regarding the fees, and that's why we are where we are today.
You know what? I would just like to make one comment before the city council attorney talks, before the USB attorney Scott. You know, you paint this picture, okay? You paint this picture. You are the one that filed the litigation. Back in March of 2017, when you signed an ordinance for the city council to take over the USB, you wanted your $30,000. Pretty much you got your $30,000 added to your salary. Before I even go further, I might as well discuss what I did earlier today at an earlier meeting that John Cannon wanted me to bring up today, because it was in a Northwest Indiana Times on 3/2 that talked about the lawsuit that the mayor filed, okay? March of 2017, the city council took over the utility service board. There was a couple reasons. The first reason being, back in January of 2017, myself and Mr. Cannon paid a visit to the mayor up in his office, and we asked him to resign. A couple reasons: the city was going south, so was the utility service board. In that article on the mayor's suit, the lawsuit, and when he mentioned that the utility service board met the previous month in an executive session, Councilman Cannon, that I'm going to go through some of his quotes, had asked myself if the mayor and his legal staff could sit in on the utility service board meeting so they could be part of it. Well, an executive session, when somebody's going to sue us like the mayor did the USB board, it's not going to sit in there. It's like the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. Going back, part of that article on 3/2 of 18 in the Times, Mr. Cannon calls the mayor, he's very transparent. You know, personally, I think his behavior as the USB chairman was unethical and immoral. Going through some of the issues, why I'm saying that? Anybody in the United States of America that sends out a check for $93,000 without board approval, and if you're in the private sector, without your boss's approval, will be fired. The only mistake that I made as a city council president is I should have taken legal action. I should have taken legal action against what the man has done. The misuse of credit cards. Unbelievable. The extravagant leases of vehicles. Not too many people in the city of Portage drive $80,000 Tahoes. Taking the police chief and the assistant police chief to Washington, D.C. after a conference, and the city taxpayers, all of you that live in the city of Portage, paying for that to Trump's inaugural. To me, that's not the way to do business. Most people would be fired. Of course, they'd be fired over writing checks for $93,000 for your personal attorney for a criminal case. Okay? Getting back to the other issues here. A couple comments were made from Mr. Cannon in that article. Cannon believes that Kenny Elwood and the clerk treasurer of the city council are financially or ethically conflicted. Another thing he states in there, basically, is that Cannon believes that Elwood should be replaced as the city council attorney and the USB. Okay? Let me just say this. Part of the article that Cannon did, he has never sent me, Councilman Cannon has never called me, never emailed me, but he makes a comment in the paper. Cannon states that I am requesting Marco Prisco to get new legal counsel. That again is financially or ethically conflicted in this matter. I'm gonna tell you what, I've known Kenny Elwood for a lot of years. He serves Porter County, their government, the Portage Township Schools, and the city of Portage for a lot of years. He does an excellent job. He's growing up in Portage, and that I take offense to that. So. Then it goes further. It states what the mayor has said. If you look at the mayor's time frame, what he's talking about, we hired legal counsel from Indianapolis, okay? The majority of the money being spent from the USB is in defense of the mayor's lawsuit. So we have a firm called Clark and Quinn, okay? It's not Kenny that's doing all the answering. We have a firm that's still looking into this, okay? Mayor, we have a firm that's still looking into this. Do you hear me?
I've heard you.
Okay, good. We have a firm that's still looking into it. I don't think our bill's as high as the $50,000 or $40,000 that you've spent so far. And thank God the $93,000 that you wanted to pay off when you were the chairman of the board, thank God that money wasn't spent for your legal defense, for your personal legal defense. That's unethical. I know you have told me in the past that you don't like that being brought up, but I'll tell you what, horrible. It's a horrible injustice what you did to these people out there. Transparent. Done.
Is there anybody else? Mr. Elwood.
Mayor, I agree generally with your time frame. I don't have my cell phone with me or my emails, so I generally agree. I think I got the memo around maybe the 12th or 13th of December. I was never invited to a meeting on December 22nd. I was never invited to any meeting. It was suggested by Greg that we meet, but I was never formally invited to any meeting, at least that I saw. You've obviously got some holidays in there. You've got, I can't just act because you have a timeline, and that's kind of what you were expecting. We looked at it initially. And then we thought it would be appropriate to bring in utility experts, as you did from Indianapolis. I can tell you it's much more complicated than a 10 or 15-minute opinion. And I think, rhetorically, I would ask, if it was a 10 or 15-minute answer, why did Bingham and Greenbaum's first bill to generate the opinion letter equal $21,000? So it's clearly more than a 10 or 15-minute opinion. Greg's done nothing wrong, been very professional to work with in this matter. We did have a tough time catching up. I was gone for a week over Christmas. I think he was gone a period of time as well. And then there was a January exec meeting, I believe, or USB meeting that got continued because of some notice issues, so that delayed it. Bottom line is, it took about 3 or 4 weeks at least for Clark Quinn to give us their opinion. Once they got it, we had to review it at the executive meeting in February. I think that was February 6th. Within 5 to 7 days, in fact, that night, I think I mentioned to Greg that we needed to meet. The USB had talked about that, and so I reached out to him then, and I followed it up with an email. And then we met ultimately. And the way I left it with Greg was, give me a week. I think I might even said till next Wednesday. I'm getting a second opinion or second part of the opinion from Clark Quinn. And then I think Clark Quinn and Bingham Greenbaum ought to meet. And he said, okay. Well, 2 days before that deadline, the suit was filed. And not deadline, but the agreed upon date. And so, obviously that surprised the council as we were trying to work towards an amicable resolution. But there's a lot more to it than what has been suggested. There's, what happens to all the decisions when the mayor sat as the USB chairman, created under the same statute that he suggests for the 6 years? What happens to those actions? What happens to the bonds that have been passed? What happens to the fees that have been passed? Are those legal? We're looking at the Home Rule Act. Clark Quinn has issued an opinion as it relates to that. But in any event, we're in litigation now, and that's unfortunate. We're going to try to resolve it as best we can to protect the citizens of Portage, and proceed from there. With that, I would like to address being called ethically and financially conflicted by Mr. Cannon. Mr. Cannon, you came to my office in the fall of this year, and I quote, you said, when the mayor goes to jail, I'm going to be appointed by the Republican caucus as mayor. And Ken, I'd like you, along with Greg Sapkowski, to serve as my city attorney. And I said, Mr. Cannon, I can't do that because I'm supporting Mr. Stidham for mayor. In addition to that, on January 2017, by the way, Mr. Stidham joined my firm in summer of 2016. Proud to have him, great lawyer. January 2017, 6 months after Mr. Stidham joined my firm, you voted for me to be city council attorney and USB attorney. February 2017, you again voted for me to be USB attorney. January 1st, 2018, you seconded the motion for me to be USB and city council attorney. So all these actions that you're now talking about that somehow conflict me precede you asking me to be city attorney and you voting 3 times for me to be either USB or city council attorney. So I'm confused as it relates to that. Could you answer those?
Well, there was no other choice for attorney on those. Well, I mean,
there's lots of attorneys in town.
Well, first of all, hang on.
Greg could have served.
Wasn't asked to. He wasn't asked.
Did you ask any other attorneys to serve?
No.
What
would the point be when it's 6-1?
Well, you vote 6-1 all the time, John.
So if I'd have voted no, it still would have been 6-1, right? We used to go to the attorney.
Why
have that argument?
Why do you vote no so frequently?
Why have that argument? Well, because those things are
doesn't count?
No, those are policy.
Hang on, Ken, he sat here and listened to you this whole time, and it said you asked him for a response. Now listen.
Okay.
It would be a formality for me to vote against it when you were going to be passed anyway 6-1. So why have that argument and have that discussion and have that fight? I mean, we would all vote for you. They would all vote for you. It'd be 6-1. So why not just go along with the vote 7-0? Why would you want to have that fight and that argument when we have enough of that going on as it is? Did that to councilperson of Briscoe and took me off boards, took me off commissions.
Because you didn't do anything. You sat in a partnership with the
he's
school.
talking.
He's talking.
Mark, he's still talking.
Mark, I've heard
he's looking at me, asking me the question. He's ineffective as a leader.
I didn't ask you a question. I just stated that you did that. That's a fact, right?
That's why.
Is that a fact?
It's a fact that you were ineffective as a leader.
No.
I have a quick question. Greg, there was a deadline that was presented that we did the suit 2 days before the deadline. Do you remember or recall that? Ken said that there was a deadline that you had given him regarding.
He talked about the time frame he thought that it would take for their lawyer to get the opinion back. Yes.
And my recollection of that from our conversation after the meeting was that it was going to be Friday or Monday. The end of the week, or he said he thought he'd have it Friday, but maybe Monday.
I believe it was Wednesday. I know that I was shocked when the lawsuit was filed because it was not what I thought Greg and I had agreed to.
The one thing that I think that everybody here does agree on to some degree is that if we can get the Indianapolis attorneys together to come up with a resolution, I'm all for that. 100% for that.
And that's what I had asked for before the lawsuit was filed.
So I'm 100% for it. Always have been and always will be. So I'd love to see that happen.
I'd like to make a motion that the mayor and the common council agree that in their best interest to resolve the USB dispute as quickly as possible and furtherance of the resolution. Agree to have the Indianapolis Council, the mayor's side as well as the council side, engage in a discussion to resolve this dispute. Such discussion should occur within 14 days.
It's not going to happen.
We have hired legal counsel.
Yeah, we
This is
already have legal
strategy. I think it's
counsel.
up for the legal counsel to decide what legal strategy. they
Motion on the floor.
Wait a minute, with the motion, can and city council be involved in these meetings as well, am I correct? Or are you just talking to two or all four parties?
Oh, no, we've already met. This would be the two law firms.
Two separate,
down
yeah,
in Indianapolis.
the Indianapolis folks.
Well, why can't you be present when this meeting goes on, Ken?
I'm happy to be present, but I completely trust Clark Quinn. So I just don't think we should be making a motion as a board
I don't either.
to direct our attorneys when we're talking about legal strategy.
Especially with the.
If there weren't a lawsuit, this would be a
If there
different
weren't a
argument.
lawsuit, we could meet. That was the
Yeah,
whole.
I think that's the issue.
What are we doing?
And we have to go with whatever happens with the lawsuit, leave the lawyers proceed.
I think that in any litigation, there can be resolution prior to this taking place.
That's what I,
Yes.
And I will tell you
Defendants in a
that-
lawsuit.
I will tell you that I've discussed that with Clark Quinn, and that Clark Quinn is considering that as one legal strategy. I just think it's inappropriate for the client to dictate what legal strategy is. That's the lawyer's wrong.
Thank you very much, Kenny.
and now,
Legal opinion.
let me ask you this, Ken. With that being said, that it's being a motion on the floor for those two to discuss, with you are a representative of the council, I'd like your opinion where if we should move forward to try to save taxpayers money and get together as a group and get this resolved, or should we just continue this crusade of destroying our tax budget?
Yes, we should try to save our taxpayers money, absolutely.
Yes.
And as I said, one of the legal strategies that's on the table is to meet with Bingham Greenbaum. And so that very well may happen. I would suspect that it will. I just think it's inappropriate for a client to tell a lawyer how to practice law. And I think Clark Quinn are the experts here, Bingham Greenbaum are the experts here. Let's allow them to decide what the appropriate step is.
Okay, now because I have concern here too, because I mean, when do you think it's gonna go into the court proceedings to make those
Here's the
decisions?
problem. The mayor's lawyers have asked for a preliminary injunction, so they've asked to go to court immediately. They're trying to get to court immediately. They're not taking the posture that they're trying to settle this matter. They filed a lawsuit, they asked for immediate hearing. And so Clark Quinn has to respond to that posturing or that posture. And so if everybody can kind of step back and Bingham Greenbaum can step back and withdraw the request for emergency or preliminary hearing, then I think a meeting's appropriate.
So then that's why I'm asking. So that's why I'm asking.
Again, I'm just saying.
Because I don't want this to go into a trial and all this stuff, because all that does is just cost tons and tons and tons, thousands and thousands of dollars.
That's why I think the number is 92% of cases settle before trial.
So in with this.
That's all I'm trying to do.
Okay, but now, in order to make that motion, we have to withdraw the date of court proceedings, am I correct? Is that what you just said?
I would like you to vote down the motion if it is seconded, because I don't think it's appropriate for a board to vote to direct legal strategy. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I agree
We're
with
just trying to
that.
get them in a room to get it resolved, so we don't have to
And that
go,
very well could happen.
and so we don't have to pay any more tax dollars out on both sides.
But that's what I'm asking. If the mayor will revoke have his attorney team revoke this court date, that would open the doors for them allowed to meet then, am I correct?
I agree with that, yes.
So can we make that motion, the mayor, if you revoke your appointment of court proceedings, that you want to discuss with all attorneys involved and get this ironed out in our own house?
I think that's exactly what Ken doesn't want us to do on our side. The attorneys need to direct legal strategy on both sides.
Can't they sit down in a room without having to take it in front of the courtroom?
They can. That's
okay, but only way to
the mayor could
that.
direct that today if he wanted
Not
to.
the only way to do that. I think that may very well happen. What I'm saying is there's a lot of things being filed on the other side that are trying to preclude that. And so I think if both sides kind of
sit down, relax,
take a breath, and say, hey, let's talk about this like we were trying to do before the suit was filed, I think that makes sense.
I just want the board to know that at any time, my team is ready to go and to talk. Always has been, always will be, and has been.
Filed a lawsuit
from day one.
Asking for an immediate.
So will you withdraw?
Decide to do. Not prepare for a court hearing that could come 3 weeks from now?
We wouldn't even be sitting here if you hadn't been negligent in your job as chair of the USB. We wouldn't even be going through any of this. It was your actions that drove this whole thing.
Okay,
Sue, hang on, I'm gonna, real quick. I spent the entire time trying to get everybody focused on, is the issue at hand? Is the board and the stormwater fee legal? If it is not, talk about negligence to a much higher level. A lot of money is going to be at risk to the point right now where boards are being told there's no money because we're escrowing this money because we don't know until the mayor's done with this lawsuit. Well, if they're escrowing the money, there's not a lot of confidence that everything's okay. I didn't.
That's not accurate at all.
That is inaccurate.
It's another false lie.
Yeah.
False lie.
That's true, because we don't know how much is going to be spent.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're taking.
Mr. Clem has his hand up.
My question is, in order to resolve this, it sounds like the mayor would have to ask his attorney firm to withdraw any court proceedings.
I think what's gonna happen, from what I'm hearing, Pat, I think everybody's gonna, our goal from day one and continuing to be is gonna be to get everybody in a room. And I think that's probably gonna take place hopefully very soon.
Just trying to nudge it along, that's all.
And I think John's trying to nudge it along. There's a motion on the floor. John, do you want to withdraw the motion?
I do not.
He does not want to withdraw the motion. John, the motion, is there a second? Is there a second? The motion does not move because of a lack of a second. All right, Mr. Williams.
You know, I would just like to say, I think the real issue here is the fact that your office, yourself, chose to file this suit. That changed the game tremendously. The fact that you are asking for a preliminary court injunction has changed this game tremendously. And it's very difficult under those two circumstances to try to get the parties together because those two issues are in place. So I think that following the lead of our legal counsel is extremely important because of the lawsuit you filed and because of the preliminary injunction that you're trying to seek.
Thank you.
I'd like to add just a couple things. Sure. To finish what you said. For one thing, I was the chairman of the USB for last year. We have a new chairman, Scott Williams. When I had conversations with the mayor does not want to talk to the USB chairman, Scott Williams. The number one reason being the Lakeshore Ford trucks that the street department purchased. He feels that that could be a major issue for him somewhere down the road. I explained to him that it's important and imperative that he talks to Scott Williams, but his basic conversation to me was there will be no discussions with Scott Williams because of the issue of the purchasing of the two trucks from Lakeshore Ford. You're laughing, is that true? I mean, you're laughing. That's a known fact. I'll do a lie detector test.
Mark, of course, you sat here, hang on, Mark, you asked a question. We got an 18-point dialogue that was full of falsehoods and things that were incorrect and inaccurate at a public meeting, trying to entrap Randy Reeder, trying to entrap Steve Nelson, trying to entrap a bunch of people in something that wasn't true. So of course, hang on, you asked me a question, and of course I'm going to be careful. Of course I don't want to talk to somebody who puts things down on paper and doesn't have all of his facts straight. Of course right now. Yes, the answer is yes.
I thought his facts were very accurate.
Well, then apparently you didn't know that Curry Motors went back on a proposal that they gave us. If that happened to our fire department or anybody here, we would have made them come through on their proposal. So they don't know how to come through on proposals.
Probably called Curry Motors. And then the second thing that you brought up, I'm going to laugh. Then the second thing you brought up during this whole talk was the police officer at City Hall. We have a police officer at City Hall. Can you tell me the date that it started? Or Troy, can you tell me the date that the police officer started there?
I'm going to let Troy come up. Troy, come on up and deal with the detail.
This is part of the discussion, Troy, that the mayor brought up. When did the City Hall detail start? That's what you call it.
Hang on, Troy. Do you want him to give his report, or do you want him to just?
I'm going to ask my questions as I go. Yeah, I'm going to ask you some questions first.
Okay, Troy, just answer the questions.
I have the floor.
Hang on. Troy, just answer the questions and then give your report. Thank you.
The start date. When was the start date for the City Hall detail?
I believe it was February 21st.
February 21st. And it's still ongoing. Was there an officer there today?
Yes.
There was, yes, today.
What is the reason? What is the reason to have an officer there on overtime on a daily basis? What's your reasoning?
It's my understanding that there is an
Can you speak in a microphone?
It's my understanding there's been an increase in the monies coming in and some irate residents that have called or come in about their certain stormwater bills.
You said what? Did you believe or you heard?
It's my understanding.
Your understanding from who?
The mayor.
Oh, the mayor. Okay, let me write that down. Interesting. Let me ask you this question. Did you ever ask the clerk treasurer that is in charge of that if that's a fact?
I haven't had a chance to talk to him too much.
Well, you know what? This was on February 21st when this started. What's today's date?
March 6th.
Yeah. 7 days. That's almost
3 weeks?
no, it's almost 2 weeks.
Well, I saw Mr. Pleasure of the mayor, and he wanted a security detail at City Hall, and
Because of those reasons. Okay, let me go further. On February 26th of this year, I sent you an email. We also had a talk, and I was pretty rude to you on the phone, okay? And then talking to you, I'm not gonna go any further. We had a conversation, and then I called you back and I said, I'm sorry. I apologize because of some of the statements you told me, and I don't wanna go into that, okay?
yeah.
Okay, and I appreciate that. On February 26th, I sent you an email asking you 3 or 4 basic questions.
You sent me several emails.
I did.
Yes.
And, you know, it's, the date today is, what's it? The 6th?
March.
I haven't gotten back anything through a telephone call or an email to answer my questions. Why is that?
Well, your emails seem to have already assumed a position. During our first conversation, like you said, you were pretty rude, and you did call back and apologize. Your subsequent emails, you included the press on our correspondence.
So I couldn't get an answer.
Okay. Well, I thought you would call again, and I've been tied up with a few things.
No. I'm not gonna call, no. After I send out email after email, it gets very irritating. I'm an elected official. I represent people in Portage. I have people asking me why we have a police officer on overtime at City Hall. It's a joke. I got people sitting on couches in there,
That's your
okay?
opinion.
Looking at their, pardon?
That's your opinion.
I've seen it, okay? I've seen it. Here's the question. When is the City Hall detail going to end? That was one of the email questions. Can you answer that?
I was asked to do a security assessment at City Hall. I've completed a preliminary assessment. I will give you all.
No, can you answer the question before you give me anything, please? Just answer the question. When is the City Hall detail going to end?
Sorry.
Can you answer that?
When I get back to the microphone.
I have a question, why are we just?
No, Liz, I have the floor.
I got one question about the handout, why are we just getting this on March 6th when this was done on February 28th, and we have no time to read through all this?
I'm not even reading it. Troy, can you answer the question, please? When is City Hall detail going to end? I'm not going to read that. I'm just answering my question.
When I get back to the microphone.
Thank you.
So the assessment was done on the 28th. We have had some, as you can imagine, a city of 40,000 some people, 67 member departments. We've had some busy things going on. I was able to complete this preliminary assessment this morning, and so I figured I would see you tonight and bring it to you.
So you have no idea when your City Hall detail is going to end?
Well, there's been some recommendations made in the
Can you
proposal.
Can you tell me? I don't have time to read a 5-page thing with the residents. Can you give me an idea?
You say that you respond to the residents. I'm a resident. I'm also the chief of police. I've given you a report. I think
I'm not going to read that. Can you just give me a date when you think it's going to end? You want to know that as a police chief.
Some of the proposals are looked at and talked about amongst yourselves, the mayor, and myself.
Not a problem. I'm not going to get an answer, obviously, from you when it's going to end. Are officers scheduled throughout the month of March by name and dates for the City Hall detail that you called it in your email?
Yes.
Through the month of March?
Yep.
Through the whole month of March? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Troy, has there been any threats to any individuals at City Hall in the past month that you have heard of through the mayor or anybody at City Hall? Direct question.
Describe threat.
Somebody that could have been fired possibly, that lost a job with the city of Portage, a resident that would have threatened an elected official, say the mayor or the clerk treasurer or a council member, or an employee at City Hall.
Again, my understanding, I've not taken the calls, but there have been a number of irate residents. I can attest that the mayor, actually, Colin sent me this now, it wasn't this, within the last month, but his family was threatened.
But it's, okay, it's fine, but I'm asking
No,
a
you
question.
asked me,
I know, but has the mayor...
Wait, hang on, wait.
Can I ask, wait, hold on.
You're talking about months ago, not within the last month. Okay. Okay.
Within the last 2 months, has there been a threat to the mayor? Have you heard, or has the mayor gone to you an email or a phone conversation and said there's been a threat to me?
No, not any direct threat, no.
A direct threat. Has there been an indirect threat?
There was an employee seen outside near City Hall that was agitated who had been previously let go.
Do you have a date on that? Do you know what date that was?
Same day, 21st.
So that's the day that you started your City Hall detail. Interesting. Really? You call this, Mayor, politically driven on the USB. I'm glad, Troy, you're answering these questions. This is bothering me. And what really bothers me is this. Are the officers that are at City Hall, are they aware that the issue is not possibly, it could be a twofold issue. It could be a USB issue with irate customers and large amounts of money, and it could also be a threat that was made to the mayor on February 21st. Do those officers know that?
I would imagine yes.
Are you saying yes or no? It's a yes or no answer, not imagine.
I've not talked to every officer.
Not every officer? Don't you think they ought to know that?
You're asking me if I've talked to every officer.
No, don't you think the officers there ought to know that? If they're looking at the clerk treasurer's office, when you come through the door at City Hall, you go to the left of the clerk treasurer's office. Correct. If you come through the back door, and there's been a threat made to this guy, on the 21st, the day you started your City Hall detail, a person could go up the stairs, I don't want him to shoot him, but could do some harm to somebody. And if the officers don't know that, sitting at Marcia's desk, what kind of position are you putting your police officers at?
They know how to respond.
Not if they don't know the true facts.
You've not had their training.
Not if they don't know the facts.
Are you a police officer?
Let me ask you this. No, I'm not, but I can tell you what, I'm not a dummy, okay? Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this. On Sunday, February 25th, in church in Hyde, Officer 148 was his escort to Lake County. Is that a fact?
No.
It's not? Was there another officer, not 148?
No.
No. Have you had officers following the mayor and his family the past 2 months on police escorts?
You asked if somebody went on Sunday. They went on Wednesday.
Was it? Okay. The last 2 months, have you had officers, or really the past 6 months, have you had officers?
Just that day.
Pardon?
That day.
I'm sorry?
Just that day.
Just that day. Have you did it in the past?
Yes.
Have you watched this house in the past?
Yes.
Would you do that for any of us as elected officials?
100%.
I'm going to ask you.
If somebody's threatening you or your family,
I'm going to ask you
or your
publicly.
protection.
Thank you, Troy. But I'm going to ask you publicly that we'll file a FOIA request for the past year. I want to know the escorts that you have given the mayor or have watched this house the past year. Can I get that information?
We'll look it up.
Thank you very much. That's all the questions I have for you. Thank you for answering my questions publicly. I know it's very difficult, but I was very upset.
Not that difficult.
All right?
It's not that difficult.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Troy, I just have one quick thing on the report. If there's an employee that made an indirect threat, have we changed the code on the back door? That they could have that code. They could reasonably get in the building, walk up the side stairs if the officers don't know who they're looking for.
I do not believe the code's been changed, no.
Should we change that code?
Amanda can answer that. She's been working on that.
We're in the process of getting that all taken care of.
Thank you.
How long does it take? How long does it take to change a code, huh?
Can be done in a couple minutes, can't it?
It's not just a change of color.
Does anybody doubt our officers would act if there was a threat?
Oh, I have no doubt that.
No.
Okay, Chief Williams, why don't you go ahead and go through your assessment?
Oh,
sorry.
Another question.
Mark has another question.
Okay, back on an article, Troy. The Northwest Indiana Times on March 3rd of this year, you're quoted in there with Joyce Russell, basically saying the inside of the O building across from City Hall where people pay their bills, the USB, have locked doors and bulletproof glass inside. You made that statement to the press. Is that a correct statement or incorrect statement?
Sounds correct.
Did you go and look at the glass?
I attempted to.
Okay, so then you didn't.
No, there were, as I pulled up, myself and Captain Candiano, who can attest to, there were 2 employees standing out back having a smoke break. We pulled in, they walked inside, closed the door, and we knocked on the door, they wouldn't let us inside.
Okay, well, let me explain to you, that's a false, it's false, because it's not bulletproof glass. Chris Stidham, would you answer that for me? You looked at it.
It's not bulletproof glass.
I mean,
He's not attesting that you went over there.
No, but according to the clerk treasurer who went over there and looked at it, is it bulletproof glass inside?
Yeah, it's just tempered.
Tempered.
Sorry.
Sorry, just regular
sorry, Mark.
safety glass.
It's just tempered glass. There's a stamp on it. It's just like, I don't know, maybe a 1/4 inch or something.
And
like a pane of glass.
You looked at, right? You looked at the time that they put that in. Did you, the manual, the installation of that?
Yeah, we pulled the installation contract, and the date escapes me. It was a few years ago, and it was a minimal cost. That was another tip off on how we knew it wasn't bulletproof.
Well, the only thing that bothers me, and I'll leave this go, is that on February 21st, you started your city hall detail because of the amount of money. And I talked to the clerk treasurer. There is no difference in money taken. It's the same. And on February 21st, an employee threatened the mayor to some degree. I just wish that honesty would prevail on the mayor's part in explaining things. And be what John Cannon calls transparent, which it wasn't. And I fault him. Thank you, Troy. Sad day.
Troy, do you want to go over this assessment now? Go ahead.
All right, so we were, our department, or I was asked to do a security assessment of City Hall. I list the location, the date, offices maintained in there. My understanding is the average daily staffing, historical information about when City Hall was built, who had been housed in there, talk about the building department. Some of the stuff, as you'll note, is, I do have the report marked confidential. We don't necessarily want to talk about certain security concerns or issues. So I would encourage you to read through it when you have the time. There are certain limitations to the building. It is, built in 1967. Is this thing? Certain offices have, easier access than others. Some doors do have an electronic passcode. City Hall does not have video monitoring. I made several recommendations to take a look at. I know it's been talked about throughout the city officials over the last few months, maybe a year, about potential new City Hall. I'm certain majority of these would be addressed in that conversation, and this report would be, I would think, used in that. But we do make some recommendations in the report for your.
Hey, Mayor, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Thank you for the assessment. My concern is this. We've known for years that public places have been threatened. Schools, and a number of venues across this United States. Why now? Why at this moment are we suddenly concerned about safety in our city hall? I don't understand that.
I can explain some of that because
it just doesn't make sense to me that all of a sudden this is becoming an extremely important issue. When
Scott, he asked a question, and I think that we had the issue on that, was it Monday? Was it a Monday? I can't remember. It was Wednesday. We had that issue on the Wednesday. We don't talk about these things sometimes because there's employees involved, there's family involved, there's all kinds of things. And when you're dealing with the public, all that stuff could hit the news media. And then when you're talking about, we had employees telling us who've been since punished or censured, telling us about the amounts of cash, where it was kept, and their concerns. And so because of those concerns, because of the line going out the door during payment time, because of some very agitated people, there's a lot more traffic at City Hall than there ever was before. I don't think anybody's disputing that. I don't know the amount of cash, but the people who handle the cash have told us there's a lot more cash than there used to be before. And we didn't want to make that a big issue. We were trying to just deal with it quietly, get it taken care of. We've got people working on cameras to get them up so that we can be secure. I think that Troy's going to recommend to Chris that there's a door on the far side to keep people from being able to walk back there and just take the money if somebody's missing. I mean, there's just basic things that need to be done to that area with the amount of residents that are coming through. It's not anything ugly. It definitely didn't need to become what it became. And one of the things that I've been very clear to my staff on is we don't respond to group emails. We don't respond to them. Because most of the times we get a group email, 90% of the time they're not questions. They're statements drafted in questions expecting us to say something, and then we get something back that says, you're a moron, or you're dumb, or something degrading. And we're just tired of it. We don't have to put up with that. We're not going to. We're not going to get called on the phone and deal with that. I appreciate you calling them and apologizing. I mean, it's just not.
You should have been honest. You should have been honest and said I had a threat against my life.
Look,
to be honest,
there wasn't a threat against my life, so it wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have been honest to say it.
He started this because of you. I mean, come on, man. Really, I'm not a detective, but really.
All right. I'd like to address a couple of questions that Councilman Williams asked. It's something that Councilwoman Modesto brought up in an email. You're right, there hadn't been people there before, but we have had threats against employees that have been there. We have responded and removed irate residents. Assistant Chief Uselak has personally removed somebody recently. And just because we hadn't done it before doesn't mean we shouldn't do it now. I was asked to take a look. I made an assessment. There were some things that caused pause that I think can be rectified. We've always had security here at the City Hall council meetings, and there's no money here. Now, if we don't think we need them, I can not have them come back next month.
I haven't seen 2 officers here for the last year.
Me neither.
This is the first night. And I even had 2 or 3 people in the audience text me, why there's 2 police officers here? Is that because of the mayor again? With a threat? Really?
Hang on. Mark.
Yes, they are. You're absolutely right. And you know what? The only reason why we have them here is because I requested them 20 years ago under Sammy Molina. And that's why we have CDs here.
My point is, just because we haven't done something doesn't mean we shouldn't do it if it's the right thing to do. And as we go forward and we look at this and we look at the report, if we think there's something we should be doing, then let's do it. That's the point.
Well, my thing is, why don't we work together to try to make a resolution? Again, the mayor's all of a sudden hosting a guy down there on overtime. I'm concerned more about the budget, about the overtime. You eating up the overtime.
So am I.
Let me finish.
Wait, I'm more concerned about people's safety than the budget.
Well, you know what? I am too, but I'm also concerned about the budget. Him eating up the overtime because of the ongoing attorney fees that we're going to have to pay, and we're not going to be able to replenish your overtime budget if you run out. And that's what I'm concerned about.
And so I got an email from you that went to the press that said,
I didn't know it went to the press.
That's not my fault. That said, we're not going to replenish overtime and we're looking at cutting all overtime. That's concerning to our department.
After we get to the
So before we jump to conclusions, again, that's why had this not gone to the press, we could have talked about this internally, and maybe we would not have been here where we are right now.
No, we're going to have a budget meeting on Friday, so we're going to discuss at the budget meeting what we're going to do. But there's a lot of things that we have to do, we have to look at because of this ongoing lawsuit. And we're paying a lot of attorney fees because the mayor filed the lawsuit. We have to defend ourselves
Strictly
as
talking
city
about
council.
our officer and security assessment.
And I'm talking
I'd
about
like to
completing
clear
your
my
overtime budget.
To Indianapolis.
Exactly.
Anybody else have any questions for me?
I'm done too. I just told you come to the budget meeting at 11 o'clock on Friday. All department heads are asked.
John.
I have more of a.
Go ahead and make that.
Chief Williams.
Can I make the announcement right now that we're gonna have a budget meeting?
Wait, I'm gonna get to that. We're gonna get to it. We'll get through the rest fast. Go ahead, John.
Chief Williams, I appreciate everything you did.
It's confidential.
I understand. I appreciate everything that you've said tonight. There's also just common sense things that we shouldn't tell the public that's going on in certain buildings and in certain locations. Is that true? I mean, we just shouldn't.
If you're asking my opinion, yes, any internal security matters should be kept internally.
Right.
I think we've addressed,
But some of that has been
situation.
Okay. So I think also I visited City Hall today, and there wasn't a receptionist there. I think that person, Marcia, has been removed from the desk. Is that because the police? Okay, but the police officer was sitting at her desk today when I come in, and I don't blame him. It's more comfy chair than where he probably would have been standing and such. So that's kind of odd to me that we do away with someone that normally kind of eases the public's mind when they come in and direct them where to go and such. And now that person's been removed. I'm not sure if all of us were aware of that. But wouldn't that help to have someone to greet a resident, or in this case a customer, and say, how can I direct you? What can I do for you today, to kind of slow a line down and move that line?
I know our officers have directed some of the people that come in at certain locations, but
correct.
I know Marcia had been there for some time, so she's probably got more intimate knowledge.
Sure.
But again, that's not my person.
Okay. And also the building across the street, maybe this is directed to someone else, but I thought that was closing, and I thought we were removing people, so there wouldn't have been anybody there to lock the door on you if we would have had them where they belong.
I don't know.
Okay.
That's not my problem.
I understand. Just wanted to. Again, I'm until we get a new city hall or the one we have now fixed with some security and some cameras and maybe a lockbox where the money should go, and a place to properly put. Again, I don't want to say too much, but we have to have a police officer in City Hall for our employees' safeties, as well as just residents that may come in. And also, folks, you have to understand, we sent out bills and only allowed folks 8 days to pay them. So there was a lot more residents having to come in an 8-day span instead of a 30-day span to pay their stormwater fee and their utility bill. So when you throw that into 8 days, you kind of clog up City Hall. Instead of stretching out over 30 days, it was in 8 days. So that made a lot more traffic come to City Hall in the last, because we sent the bills out late.
Thank you. Yeah. Clerk Treasurer.
Sure. So I think a lot of, obviously, emotion and everything has been brought up tonight, and I don't want to get into that. Troy and I had a private conversation about this. I appreciate this review. I've breezed through it now. My only issue was how it was handled, that I think that my office should have been involved in the review. It's my office. And I could have given you, I think, important details, and perhaps we'll have the opportunity after this, before it becomes a final draft, to sit down and talk about some of the important details, exactly how many customers come in and out, how many dollars are brought in, the average transaction, those types of things. I appreciate the preliminary draft. I've breezed through the recommendations. I think all of them are very good. And I told you when we had our private conversation that I think we could always do better on security, and it's always a good time to review it. And my issue has never been with the review. It was how it was handled. And I appreciate this, and we'll look at getting those implemented with your help.
Is there anybody else? Do you have anything else to report?
I would like to see this assessment turn into something where City Hall is made safer by people just doing corrective action in here and not having to have a police officer in there. I mean, I look at our schools and we have thousands of children in there. I would rather see our police officers in our schools protecting our children.
We're not getting an argument for me. If it were solely up to me, I'd put 2 more in tomorrow.
So what do
We have thousands of children, and here we're so focused on City Hall. Let's correct what's wrong about people walking in, but my daughter works over Christmas, and it's an open concept school. If somebody walks through those doors, they can take out a whole bunch of kids very fast. And I'm more concerned about that, and my daughter too, over having an officer sitting there in City Hall, just sitting there.
Troy, I'd like you to address that, because that's not an accurate statement at all, Sue.
It is accurate.
I've been at the schools during the last few weeks, and we're all over them. We're doing an incredible job. We're getting accolades for it. Yes, you did. You said you'd rather see more people in there than somebody sitting at City Hall. We're not taking our eye off of the schools. Go ahead, Chief. It's not true.
I didn't say that. I said it's a waste. No, you're trying to twist words like you always do.
I've been every word I've made
trying
today
to turn
has been
it around,
twisted.
Mayor.
Go ahead.
I didn't hear a negative comment, but.
See my thin blue line bracelet? I support our police officers. And I am not going to see you guys sitting over in City Hall when I see other things that I think you need to be doing.
Okay. So if I could, well, since I'm already up here, if I could just go into my department head report and address a couple things, I appreciate that. We'll mention, I know the mayor mentioned it, and I do want to mention it again. 28-year veteran of the Portage Police Department, Jeff Podgorski, badge number 87, and a former U.S. Army veteran serving in the Gulf War, and passed away today after a long bout of cancer. It's definitely rocked our department. So he's a good man, fine officer, and will be missed. We have a current applicant that has his packet down at the Indianapolis to get perf approved, and hopefully that'll be done by the end of March, and we'll get him hired to fill a previous opening. We do have a new hiring process that is ongoing. Currently we're handing out applications. I want to say we've got in the neighborhood of 40 handed out. I think it goes for another couple of weeks, so if you know somebody that's interested in working for our department, tell them to apply. All right. We are also hosting so after the Parkland shooting, the very next day, I'm sure you read about in the paper, a couple of kids were seen, or they actually adults seen, walking in the neighborhood of Fegley carrying what appeared to be real guns. Turns out they were pellet guns. What made it a little more eerie or difficult that morning is there was an extreme amount of fog. So typically when you get a call on something like that, one call, you go get several calls. We show up, and as we're arriving, parents with their kids at the bus stop are pointing out, hey, they went that way, that went that way, so, got everyone hiding a little bit. Pretty quickly, we made a determination, since it was a neighborhood of Fegley, that we should put the Fegley, Myers, and Portage Christian on a lockout. Called Superintendent Allen, talked to her. She made the decision, which I agree with, to put the rest of the schools on a lockout, just as a precaution, because we didn't know what was going on. Took us a couple hours to locate those subjects, but we did, and brought them to the station for further questioning, and our report was forwarded to the prosecutor's office. Ultimately, charges were not filed, but it didn't cause everybody a lot of concern. Since then, there's at least a half a dozen, if not more, reports around the region of similar threats involving social media in the schools. Anytime something like that comes out, and Captain Candiano can attest to this, I'm telling them, have our officers, go to the schools, especially in the morning, the drop-off hours, when they're not taking reports, or they're not actively doing something, to be sitting in the school typing a report, walking through the school always. Our officers are always at the schools, always. So coupled with, this, so we wanted to put out this training that we're doing, this active shooter survival workshop for students and teachers. That's typically who we service. So Council President O'Briscoe sent me a question or an email, again to the press, wanted to know what our qualifications were to do this. So again, I wanted to address a few things with regards to school safety. Recently, we were advertising we were hosting a 2-hour active shooter school survival workshop with 4 separate dates of availability. It's a conversation no one really wants, but wants to have because it's uncomfortable to talk about, but it's important to have in this day and time. I will preface this. I probably got 4 or 5 minutes worth of talking, so bear with me. We are teaching this class to help keep people alive. My intent was not to cause anyone any grief, but to increase awareness, understanding, and confidence in how one might respond if placed in a situation with an active shooter. We're not going to override any current school safety protocols, school board policies, or Department of Education policies. We intend to offer this class to other entities, but we thought we'd offer it to the schools first. We're going to provide a basic grasp of understanding self-reliance, history of school violence, learning some basic first aid techniques, developing an understanding of what the police response protocols are, enhancing communication methods, increasing self-defense concepts, and how to fortify your location. Recently, Portage Township School Superintendent Mrs. Allen has sent a letter to the Mayor, Council President Oprisco, and I expressing some concern that any training must align with current school protocols and not create confusion in how to respond to school safety threats. The reason I'm addressing this now publicly is that Council President Oprisco forwarded that letter she sent onto the entire council and to the Times and Post-Tribune newspapers. He also questioned our certifications and qualifications. A public statement from me is necessary and warranted. I can assure you that the training will not interfere with current school safety protocols and that those that attend will have better self-confidence in a crisis. Mrs. Alvarez and I have already have a meeting scheduled tomorrow where I believe all concerns will be addressed.
Thank you.
Council President Oprisco, you've asked what the qualifications were of those that are teaching the class that we are hosting. I'm going to list those. Portage Fire Department personnel will teach a 15 to 20 minute segment on basic first aid techniques. They are certainly qualified to teach that. Assistant Chief Ted Uzelak is a 20-year police officer with 25 years, Portage police officer with 25 years total law enforcement. A U.S. Army veteran serving in the Iraq War. A certified instructor in law enforcement active shooter response, a field training officer, former canine handler, an Indiana Law Enforcement Academy and NRI certified firearms instructor. A refused to be a victim instructor, a 15-year member of the Portage SWAT team. He is also certified in several FEMA courses through the Department of Homeland Security. Major Lisa Duncan is a 28-year veteran of the Portage Police Department. She was the first school resource officer for Portage Township Schools, holding that position for 7 years. Major Duncan helped draft the school safety crisis plans. She's an Indiana school safety specialist. She holds a master's degree in applied behavioral science from Valparaiso University. Is a former patrol supervisor, detective, and public information officer. Captain Mike Candiano is a 15-year Portage police officer. He serves as the captain of the patrol division and was the Portage Township Schools resource officer for 4 years. He also serves on the safety committee for the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Northwest Indiana. He is 2 classes shy of his bachelor's degree in business administration. He's a state certified specialist, field training officer, and a Portage police officer of the year in 2008. Captain Candiano is a graduate of the FBI Hostage Negotiator School, and the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy certified instructor in policing the Team Brain, former member of the Portage County Juvenile Drug Court team, current member of the Portage Township School Security team. He has instructed multiple school districts in several aspects of school safety. He developed a security and safety protocol presentation similar to the one we're going to present, which was presented to all PTS schools and shared with other Portage County School corporations. He's also certified in several FEMA courses. Captain Rob Maynard is an 18-year Portage police officer and honor graduate of the Law Enforcement Academy. He serves as Captain of Administrative Services, commander of the Portage Police SWAT team, with 16 years total on the team. He is a graduate of the FBI SWAT school and possesses specialized training in incident response to terrorist bombings and weapons of mass destruction tactical operations. He is an Indiana Law Enforcement certified instructor, field training officer, and defensive tactics instructor. He is also a certified NRA instructor in home firearms safety, pistol instructor, and personal protection in the home. Captain Maynard possesses a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and criminology from Ball State University. He's also certified in several FEMA courses through the Homeland Security. Chief Troy Williams. I'm a 21-year member of the Portage Police Department and honored graduate of the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, a United States Marine Corps veteran serving in the Gulf War. I hold a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Indiana University, where I made the Dean's List. 3-time Portage Police Officer of the year 2000, 2006, and 2007, Indiana Police Officer of the year in 2007. Graduate of the Northwestern University Police School of Staff and Command, where I was selected the class president. Served as president and vice president of the Northwest Indiana Law Enforcement Academy Board of Directors. Currently served as the recording secretary. Currently served member as the Empower Portage County Board of Managers with Attorney Sikowski. recipient of the Greater Portage Chamber of Commerce Putting Portage on the Map Award in 2006 for work to control drugs and violence in Portage Township Schools Corporation. Also the recipient of the School Safety Advocacy Council's National School Safety Award of Recognition in 2009 for contributions and dedication to school safety in our schools and community. Past president of the Portage County Safe Schools Commission, the past president of the E911 Advisory Board, a state certified school safety specialist, additionally has asked to teach breakout sessions for the Indiana School Safety Specialist Academy and for the U.S. Attorney's Office, Northern District on school safety, also with several certifications through FEMA. Clearly, we are more than qualified to teach this training.
Well, did you talk to the schools prior?
I'm not done yet. 3 letters I thought were important to bring. This was dated 2006. Chief Birch, in October 2005, I was contacted by a headmaster of Lalamere School, which is a very prestigious private college preparatory boarding school in LaPorte County, and asked if I could facilitate a program for their students, staff, and parents that would educate each group about the dangers of internet chat rooms and websites such as MySpace and Facebook. I have no expertise in this area, but nonetheless agreed to attempt to locate someone who can make such a presentation. I made several inquiries with several Indiana field officers of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, and was informed by one agent, without hesitation, he would recommend Corporal Troy Williams, Portage Police Department, to conduct this program. November 29th, Corporal Williams made an afternoon presentation to the students and staff at the school. The students' grades 9 through 12 were somewhat different. Corporal Williams, however, did an outstanding job with presenting his message. There were a number of questions from both sides, both the students and staff, and the questions were answered informatively and thoroughly. That evening, Corporal Williams returned to the campus and made a presentation to a group of parents. I've had subsequent conversations with the administrators and several parents who attended the seminar, and they were very pleased with the program and found it to be very educational. I'd like to commend Corporal Troy Williams for his outstanding programs. They were very informative and educational. Corporal Williams is very passionate about his work and about providing information that will keep young people and their families safe. As evidence of his passion for internet safety, Corporal Williams took a vacation day that did not affect his assignment at the Portage Police Department or the Portage High School to come to North LaPorte County and make this presentation. Dear Chief Becker, July 2009, on behalf of the Munster Police Department and School Town of Munster, I wish to thank Corporal Williams for agreeing to meet with members of the department and the high school, as well as Judge Mary Bonaventura last Thursday. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss the possibility of forming an information sharing agreement between our department and our local schools with Judge Bonaventura. Corporal Williams is a tremendous asset by explaining the system currently in place with Porter County, as well as providing handouts and examples of the Indiana state statutes. He was extremely professional and supportive in our efforts. I'd like to thank you for allowing Corporal Williams to participate in this meeting. We're attempting to make our community safer for our children. It is evident Corporal Williams greatly cares about young people, and we commend his efforts. Dear Troy, this is from the Indiana Department of Education. We'd like to thank you for your participation in this year's Indiana School Safety Specialist Academy Advanced Training. Your insight into the issues facing school safety specialists has been extremely helpful, and we appreciate your participation in our program. We also appreciate the time and effort that you put into your presentations and to engage with our participants. Your hard work and preparation in the Academy exemplifies your commitment to the issues facing staff and students. The Academy considers you an asset and partner with regards to school safety. On behalf of our school and all school safety specialists, we thank you. Gary Green, Director of Student Services. We'd like to give you a short history, I'm almost done, of school safety in Portage. Major Lisa Duncan became the first school resource officer in Portage Township Schools in 1999. Currently, only Portage, Chester, and Valpo has full-time SROs in their respective school systems. Other schools in the county either do not have one, only have a part-timer, or have officers that work on a rotating basis. I authorized a second resource officer in PTS schools with their approval, and I became the chief because one officer for 12 schools was not enough. I'd put 2 more in tomorrow, as I said, if the schools if it were solely up to me. Meeting with myself and following with Captain Duncan and Officer John Wright, the Portage Police Department is the only participating law enforcement representative on the Honorable Judge Mary Harper's Juvenile Drug Court team, addressing high-risk juvenile drug offenders throughout the entire county. We're the first police department in the region to outfit its public schools with a police radio, so they would have instant contact with us in the event of emergency. We're able to further foster our partnership with PTS to be able to view live footage of their security video during an emergency. We sent officers to train the trainer course in policing the teen brain to gain a better understanding of dealing with adolescents, and have taught the course to other law enforcement agencies in the county. Additionally, we sent 2 new officers to the 2-day restorative justice training hosted by PTS at their request. Both trainings were to better serve our student population. Our school resource officers attend monthly juvenile probation meetings, quarterly juvenile chronic offender meetings, and as previously mentioned, are involved in the Porter County Juvenile Drug Court. Last page. Portage Police Department, like many other departments in the county, partnered with the Porter County Juvenile Probation Department and the Porter County Juvenile Detention Center when they're going through their JDAI, Juvenile Justice Alternatives Initiative, and DMC, Disproportionate Minority Contact Assessments and Evaluations. We offer insights, advice, support in the form of personnel, time, and space, all to provide support to juveniles that make decisions which cause them to end up in the juvenile justice system. Porter Township Schools staff and our school resource officers attend the Porter County Safe Schools Commission monthly meeting and share information. In closing, I want to emphatically state that the Portage Police Department has always led the way when it comes to school safety, working with our schools, and we will continue to do so. Any comments suggesting otherwise are misleading, undefendable, and without merits.
One of the things, after I read the letter from the superintendent of the school system, her last paragraph is basically, please note that the Portage Police Department workshops are not sanctioned by PTS, and any policies and procedures set forth by PTS, including policies 1613, 1617, 3217, 3362-01, 5520, 5540, it goes on and on. I guess the major issue in this whole thing is we do have, the city and the schools are working very effectively to do things. And one of the issues that came up is the superintendent knew nothing about it when you put out your letter to do that, and you used the Portage Township schools without talking to the school district. That was an issue, okay? And I do see in here that they are working with Porter County, the Sheriff's Department, all the districts in Porter County, and you just mentioned that you are, that's good. And if you have the opportunity in the next couple of days, if you could send me the specialists and the training that our current two officers have and the previous two, I'd appreciate that. It meets the standards of the state of Indiana and any federal guidelines. Thank you.
Questions?
Sure.
Thanks.
Good job, sir.
I understand that there is a ordinance on the table tonight.
I'm pulling it.
I respectfully ask that be pulled.
I'm going to pull it. We're going to work with you. Sue's going to be talking to you.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then
I'll see you. Have a good night.
Chief, I do have one question. I'd like to give you a phone call and talk to you later about an ordinance about children walking the streets with BB guns and such sort that look like a real weapon.
Listen, we are here to do everything we can for the safety of this community, and I don't think anyone can ever question that. I appreciate that, and we'll get it worked out.
Okay.
I just wanna say one thing, Troy, I don't think anybody's ever questioned that
Our
your job or the job of your police officers as far as doing a good job. We all recognize that you do a good job along with all your police officers.
I think the problem lies right there in the man in the middle directing people to do, no, don't laugh, that's true.
Listen, I spoke my piece, we're not here to.
All right, we're done. Thank you.
That's in the business.
All right, I haven't said anything in quite some time. Can I just say something real quick?
Sure.
I think all of us are guilty of it. The mayor, Mark, myself, every single one of us up here is guilty at one point or another of using our police officers and city employees as pawns in politics. We need to stop it. All of us. We're all guilty of it. We've all been guilty of it at some time.
Don't say all. I have never used the police.
At some point, we've all said something. I'm guilty of it.
For political gain.
We all need to stop it.
Take me right out of that equation.
All right.
Anytime we ever use salary ordinance,
Ken, I don't have any other city official reports. Are there any reports of standing committees? We have the first reading.
Yeah, I got a report, not a report, but I have an announcement to make. I am holding a budget meeting on March 9th, which is Friday at 11:00 a.m. And any department head that is here, I'd appreciate it if you come to that budget meeting, because the budget's gonna be addressed in detail. We're gonna go over every line item. Well, I don't think we'll go over every line item, but we just wanna have a budget meeting to go over some things that's happening in the city right now, pertaining to basically the mayor's lawsuit and maybe a lack of funds at the end of the year, so.
All right. Is there anybody else? All right, under first reading, are we tabling the excessive shoplifting calls? We have a motion to table.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any new business? Under receptions of remonstrances, public input, this is where we allow people to speak publicly. If there's anybody here to speak, you can come to the podium. Mr. Clem, could you please put that mic back on the board? Back up there so they can talk? And we don't have to listen to Liz. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. That was a joke. That was a joke.
Trying to shut me up already.
How are you? Can you please, hang on a second. I want to get everybody's attention because I think everybody's kind of feeling like they're on their way out here and you have something to say and we want to hear it. So hang on. I want everybody's attention. Okay, please state your name and your address.
My name is Charlotte Hammonds. I'm speaking for my father, Doug Hammonds.
Sure.
He cannot speak.
Sure.
Our address is 313 James Place in Portage.
Okay.
Since he cannot speak, I would like to thank the council members who respond to my emails. I have some concerns about a rumor that I hope is false, and if it fails, I'm sorry for wasting your time. I heard that some on the council wants to institute a firearm ordinance. Under advisement of an attorney, I was told to remind the council of IC 35-47-1112. The firearm preemption state law, which I'm sure you are aware of. I would ask those on the council who feels this type of ordinance is needed to please reconsider your position, as I feel will lead to unnecessary lawsuits. I don't disagree that our kids need to be safe, but something else could be done other than this type of ordinance. As a council member pointed out, most firearm people I know also have a license to carry a handgun and underwent fingerprinting and background checks. And according to most stats, we are the most law-abiding people in this country. So why would anyone want to restrict us when the criminals and mentally unstable don't care? What ordinance you have, if this ordinance is to be talked about or voted on, I will be at each meeting till I no longer need my daughter to speak. The council will have learned to read my lips and be tired of seeing my face.
There isn't going to be an ordinance that I know of. There won't be an ordinance.
Thank you.
A resolution possibly.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your emails, Dave.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sitting through all that. Huh?
It was interesting.
Yeah, you get to learn. How are you?
I'm Rhonda Nelson, 6869 Railside. Yeah, I really am.
Hey, Rhonda.
I'm currently serving as Portage Township School Board member. I, as many other school officials across the country, face a very challenging time as it relates to school security. We are all aware of the school massacre in Parkland, Florida, where 17 people were killed. I read this morning in the Northwest Indiana Times that the mayor has chosen to station a police officer at City Hall. The purpose, as stated by the mayor, is to guard the clerk treasurer's office. This has resulted in overtime pay for the officers. I find it interesting that the mayor has chosen to do this, even though the clerk treasurer, Christopher D. Stidham, who runs the office, who collects the money, does not feel these measures are necessary. Also, I remember a few years ago when money disappeared in there and it just disappeared, if you remember correctly about that.
Which is a problem.
Yeah, but the police wouldn't have helped that. So, as Stidham stated, most
Nobody knows where it went.
in fact, a very large percentage are paid through online payments or check. Very little cash is paid into the clerk treasurer's office. To my knowledge, no mayor in history has ever ordered a police officer off of the street to guard the clerk treasurer's office. Recently, the chief of police is quoted as saying that this security was needed. The mayor and Chief Troy Williams have mentioned that we have both these styles of public utility building. My understanding is that is not accurate from employees who work there. Many other businesses such as banks, handle a large amount of money. I was on board of the bank. We never had bulletproof glass windows. We never had cash. We had cash storage. These lobbies do not have bulletproof glass, nor do our local banks have armed police officers or even unarmed security guards at the buildings. This is poor use of resources, particularly given the recent school shooting. As a taxpayer and elected official, I believe that all of our officers need to be fighting crime on the streets. If we have extra officers to spare, please send them to our schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh no, Mr. Hallman's up. I said, oh no, I didn't say no. Bob, you got 2 minutes.
Well, the first thing I'd like
and I'm asking you to be not. Hang on. I'm asking you to be nice. Good job. Please, you didn't state your name and address.
Bob Hallman, 3017 Wood Street, Portage. I'd like to address the council. If you want to get rid of this lawsuit malarkey, do the right thing and resign from the Utility Service Board. You have no right over that board. You're over in the city council. You shouldn't have both stamps. You should only hold one stamp. So you want to get rid of the lawsuit, resign. That'll get rid of it and save all our taxpayers money. And let the mayor appoint the people the way it was meant to be.
That's your opinion.
Thank you.
Thanks for your opinion.
Thank you.
Well, you want to save the taxpayers money. That's how you do it. You quit criminally acting yourself.
Put rubber stamps and gave away $93,000.
Thank you.
Maybe you need to tell the mayor he shouldn't file a lawsuit.
Is there anybody else? Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Well, I got one other thing.
Okay.
Mr. Presco.
Yes, sir.
From what I understand, your family collects 2 political paychecks from this community. I've heard from more than one party that you are now residing in Munster, Indiana, collecting 2 political paychecks from Portage, Porter County.
I own a couple condos, I own a building out there and everything else. There's nothing wrong with that. My home is in Portage. But I do have a place.
Well, you have a home in Portage, but what I understand, you lay your head at night in Munster. Now, if you're looking for something criminal, that to me is criminal. I call for you either resign from your position or you ask the mayor for his resignation. You either resign from your position.
Thank you, Bob.
Or I call from the newspaper and the FBI to do a full investigation on what you're doing.
Mr. Hallman, thank you.
I have as many homes that I want.
Thank
as
you.
many businesses that I want. This is America.
I had
I wish I had enough money to have a home in Florida.
I had 13 at one time, so I guess
13? No. She had 13.
Yeah, but you lay your head down.
Hang on, Bobby. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there any other business that needs to be brought before the board? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Well, I'm sorry. I know we all want to get out of here, but 2 times tonight, someone has said that I have reassigned or penalized an employee of mine related to the Social Security fiasco. So I just want to get some more information out of that because that's news to me. So if someone can, I think both you and Councilperson Cannon have said that I have penalized and or removed an employee from their station. I think you're talking about the employee who used to sit at the front desk in the lobby of City Hall. 2 times I've been accused of doing something I haven't done. I just want to get some more information.
A lot more had happened than that tonight. So, do we have a motion to adjourn?
It's not true. I guess is the other, because I guess the other council members want to know about this. It's not true.
Yeah, what employee?
I assume we're talking. I don't want to use her name.
Well, yeah, no.
Marsha got moved from the front desk.
She didn't get moved.
She doesn't speak to anybody. So.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, Bob, you're done. Bob. Thank you. Hang on. Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
She wasn't removed, and I'm not going to go into details because she'd be mortified to even know that she was brought up tonight. All I'm going to say is she requested to be moved where she's at. I didn't move her. She could stay wherever she likes to stay. She requested very vehemently, we will say that, to no longer be in that position for a variety of reasons. The least of which was security. It was mostly because of how she was being badgered.
Thank you. Is there any other business that needs to be brought before the board? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.